The pulsing sound of music filled the club, a mix of electronic beats and neon lights that made the space feel alive. The air was heavy, charged with an energy and freedom that only a place like this could offer. Among the crowd of bodies dancing, laughing, and losing themselves, Noah, an 18-year-old with a curious gaze and nearly palpable excitement, took in his surroundings. Tall, athletic, and with dark skin that stood out in the crowd, he was used to being the center of attention. But tonight, he found himself drawn to something unusual. Near the restrooms at the back of the club, a slightly older man was watching him. With a well-groomed beard and a calm, almost serene expression, he held a charm that contrasted with the club's frenetic atmosphere. He was different from anyone Noah expected to find here. When their eyes met, the man gave a subtle smile, a silent invitation. Noah hesitated for a moment but felt an irresistible pull. He approached slowly, and the man did the same until they found themselves outside the restroom. Without exchanging a single word, they stepped inside together. The confined, quiet space of the bathroom was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. And there, without words, the tension between them became something more. The man introduced himself as Ben and moved closer, his gaze firm and intrigued. Noah's heartbeat quickened. Noah had never felt an attraction this immediate or intense. The connection between them was tangible, and Ben's touch, gentle but sure, ignited something deep inside him. The world around them disappeared, leaving them with nothing but each other. In that instant, Noah knew this night would mark him in ways he couldn't yet understand. Noah left the club that night with his heart racing, his thoughts fixed on what had just happened. He and Ben had exchanged few words, yet their glances and touches had spoken volumes. He could still feel the firm touch of Ben's hands, the warmth he'd felt in that bathroom. It was an intensity Noah had never experienced before. For Ben, used to casual encounters, there was something about Noah that sparked an unexpected interest, one that went beyond physical attraction. He found himself thinking about the young man over the following days, the memory of their encounter growing rather than fading. They exchanged a few texts, each one pulling them closer, and soon they arranged to meet again, this time at a quiet cafe downtown. When Noah arrived, he found Ben already seated, with a slight smile and a look that held a mix of curiosity and calmness. The age difference was obvious, but it seemed only to heighten the intensity of what they were beginning to feel. Their conversation flowed easily. Noah was drawn to Ben's experience and maturity, while Ben admired the young man's ambition and energy. What had begun as a random meeting in a club bathroom was growing into something more intimate. Every glance, every smile exchanged told them both that they were stepping into something beyond a fleeting romance. When they said goodbye that day, both knew that something special was happening. What had begun as a spontaneous connection was evolving into a relationship neither could ignore. In the days that followed, Noah and Ben continued to see each other. Meeting felt natural, and they both looked forward to these moments. Their spontaneous encounters soon became a constant, a sign that they were building something more meaningful. For Ben, even with his experience, he felt an excitement and a genuine curiosity about the young man who had crossed his path in such an unexpected way. The first time Ben invited Noah over to his place, the young man felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Ben's apartment was stylish and comfortable, a reflection of his calm and sophisticated personality. Noah found himself fascinated by every detail, by everything Ben represented. He was the opposite of what Noah had known, a kind of stability that felt both liberating and thrilling. As they shared a glass of wine, Ben watched Noah, captivated by his open, spontaneous nature. On impulse, he reached out, intertwining his fingers with Noah's. "You've brought a new kind of energy into my life," he said, with a warm, honest smile. Noah smiled back, his heart pounding. Leaning forward, he kissed Ben, a kiss filled with more than just desire. In that moment, Noah felt that he was experiencing something he never thought possible. He felt seen and wanted in a way he'd never known. That night, they allowed themselves to explore the depths of their emotions, building something beyond the physical, a connection that seemed to grow with every encounter, every shared moment. For Ben, it was like rediscovering love. And for Noah, it was the beginning of a feeling he never imagined he would experience. With each encounter, Noah and Ben grew closer, sharing not only moments of passion, but also dreams, doubts, and the stories that shaped who they were. Ben, who always valued stability and security, felt a lightness with Noah that made him question why he had waited so long to allow himself to experience something like this. One night, after a home-cooked dinner that Ben had prepared especially for Noah, they found themselves lying side by side in bed. Noah rested his head on Ben's chest, feeling the warmth and security that only Ben could provide. To him, Ben was a mix of stability and excitement, someone who made him feel both protected and intensely desired. "I didn't expect this," Ben murmured, running his fingers through Noah's hair while looking at the ceiling thoughtfully. "I guess I got used to it being just me." Noah looked up, his gaze locked on Ben's expression. "You know, I didn't think this would happen either, not like this." His words were sincere, and he realized he felt something for Ben that went beyond simple attraction. There was genuine admiration, a feeling that grew every time he saw him. They exchanged a look that spoke volumes, and Noah pulled Ben closer, their lips meeting in a kiss that held all the desire and affection they had built. In the dark, under the covers, they let themselves explore the depth of their emotions, giving themselves to each other with an intensity that seemed to solidify their bond. Noah found himself thinking of Ben even when they were apart, and Ben felt a renewed enthusiasm, a feeling of youth that he thought he'd left behind. That night, as they drifted off to sleep together, they both knew that their relationship had become something more than a simple romance. The weeks turned into months, and Noah and Ben had their own small routines. Weekends were sacred, spent together in the peace of Ben's apartment or out in the city. Each moment felt carefully built, filled with intimate conversations and glances that said everything. One Saturday afternoon, Ben surprised Noah with tickets to an art exhibit he knew the young man wanted to see. As they walked into the gallery, Noah held Ben's hand discreetly, sharing a smile that held all the admiration he felt. "You really thought of everything," Noah whispered, his voice filled with gratitude. Ben laughed, putting his arm around Noah. "Seeing you happy makes everything worth it." The connection between them seemed more natural than ever, and Ben found himself doing things he never imagined, planning dates, paying attention to details to make Noah smile. He felt genuine happiness by Noah's side, something that made him feel truly alive. That night, when they returned to Ben's apartment, the atmosphere felt different, more intense. Noah moved closer, his eyes shining as he looked at Ben, and he knew that this moment would mark another page in their story. With a kiss that started gentle and soon deepened, they let themselves be carried away by passion, giving themselves fully to each other. When they finally rested side by side, Noah looked at Ben with a smile, his hand still holding his. "You know, you mean a lot to me, right?" Ben squeezed Noah's hand, his eyes filled with warmth. He knew what he felt for Noah was something beyond anything he had planned or expected. For him, Noah was the embodiment of something he thought impossible to feel again. A genuine passion, accompanied by a tenderness that warmed his heart. That night, as they fell asleep in silence, both reflected on the depth of their connection, increasingly aware that they were living something unique and intense. And although they didn't say it aloud, both felt they were not only sharing the present, but beginning to imagine a future together. With each passing day, Noah and Ben's connection grew deeper. They shared not only moments of affection and passion, but also their dreams, their fears, and the stories that shaped who they were. Ben had always been one to value stability and security, but with Noah, he felt a new lightness, something freeing and exciting. One night over dinner, Ben raised his glass with a smile. "To us," he said, clinking glasses with Noah. "To us," Noah replied, a warmth spreading through him at the sincerity in Ben's eyes. As the night continued, Ben opened up more about his life, his ambitions, and even his insecurities. And to his surprise, Noah listened with a maturity he hadn't expected. There was a quality in Noah, a sincerity and zest for life that made Ben feel safe enough to show his vulnerabilities. "I want you to be a part of this," Ben said, meeting Noah's gaze. "Of everything I'm building. I don't know what the future holds, but I want you there." Noah squeezed Ben's hand, his eyes reflecting a deep intensity. He knew Ben was a prosperous man, someone who had achieved much in life, and the idea of being part of that world fascinated him. "I want to be by your side, Ben, every step of the way." That night, as they once again surrendered to each other, the intensity between them grew even stronger. Each moment together solidified their connection, and though they were immersed in passion, they both felt it was more than that. A bond built on trust and a desire to grow together. Their relationship blossomed like never before. Weeks turned to months, and what had started as a casual encounter turned into something that seemed destined. Ben's friends noticed the change. He was lighter, more joyful, and Noah's constant presence by his side had become a source of admiration. One fall afternoon, Ben surprised Noah with a special gift. "I want you to have this," he said, placing a small key in Noah's hand. It was the key to his apartment. "This place is yours too now." Noah looked at the key, surprised, his heart racing. He knew this gesture meant a lot to Ben, a confirmation that he was more committed than ever. Without hesitation, Noah pulled him into an embrace, feeling the warmth and security that only Ben could provide. From that day on, Noah became more deeply involved in Ben's world. Nights spent together were filled with passion and intimacy, moments where they both gave themselves completely to each other. In one of those nights, Ben turned to Noah, his gaze filled with tenderness. "I love you," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. The words sent a shiver through Noah. "I love you too," he whispered, almost unable to believe what he was saying. Their relationship took on a new level of intensity. Noah found himself increasingly emotionally and physically involved, and Ben gave himself to their relationship with a passion he'd never known before. They were experiencing something that went beyond anything either had felt, a bond so strong it felt unbreakable. Ben woke up the next morning to an unsettling silence. Reaching out instinctively, he found the bed beside him empty and cold. Noah was usually there, close by, a warm presence that Ben had come to cherish. He called out softly, expecting to hear Noah's voice or the sounds of him moving around in the apartment. But there was only silence. A strange feeling began to settle in his chest, something he couldn't quite name but felt deep in his gut. Ben tried to shake off the unease, heading to the bathroom to start his day. He noticed that a few things were missing: a toothbrush, a bottle of cologne he'd bought for Noah. He assumed Noah had left early, maybe stepping out to run some errands, and tried to push the odd feeling aside. But as he went about his routine, something nagged at him, a sense that things were not as they seemed. When he checked his phone for messages, hoping to see something from Noah explaining his sudden absence, his heart dropped. There was nothing. No texts, no missed calls. It was as if Noah had disappeared overnight. Trying to remain calm, Ben checked his bank account on a whim, wondering if Noah had left to pick something up for them. But when he opened the app, his world shattered. An enormous withdrawal had been made in the middle of the night, a sum that almost emptied his entire account. His savings, the money he had worked for and invested with such care, all gone in an instant. Ben stared at the screen in disbelief, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. This couldn't be real. Noah would never. But as he stared at the transaction details, the truth began to seep in like poison spreading through his veins. Frantically, Ben rushed back to the bedroom, throwing open drawers and closets, his heart pounding as he searched for any sign of Noah's belongings. One by one, he opened them, only to find them empty. Clothes, toiletries, even small trinkets that Noah had left lying around. All gone. Everything that had once belonged to Noah, every trace of him, had vanished overnight. And with each empty drawer, Ben's heart broke a little more. He sank to the floor, his mind racing as memories flooded back, each one now tainted with a cruel new reality. The laughter they had shared, the nights of whispered promises, the quiet moments of vulnerability. All of it had been a lie, part of an elaborate plan that Noah had executed with perfect precision. Ben felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under him, leaving him to free fall into a chasm of betrayal and heartbreak. In his desperation, Ben went through their messages, his mind replaying every conversation, every glance, every smile that Noah had given him. Each one now seemed hollow, calculated. He had trusted Noah so completely, had opened up to him in a way he hadn't with anyone in years. And yet, it was all just part of a performance. The man he had fallen for, the man he had imagined a future with, was nothing more than a con artist, a stranger who had taken everything he held dear and disappeared into the night. As the weight of the betrayal settled over him, Ben felt a grief so intense it was almost physical. He clutched at his chest, trying to catch his breath as the enormity of it hit him. Noah hadn't just taken his money. He had taken Ben's trust, his hope, and every moment of joy he'd found in the last few months. The life they had been building, the future he had dared to imagine, all of it had been nothing more than a cruel illusion. Ben's mind raced with questions, each one more painful than the last. Had Noah ever cared for him, even a little? Had there been any real moments? Or had it all been part of the plan from the start? The thought that every kiss, every touch, every declaration of love had been a lie tore at him. He wanted to believe that there had been something genuine, some small part of Noah that had cared, but deep down, he knew the truth. With trembling hands, Ben dialed Noah's number, hoping, praying, that there was some explanation, some way this nightmare could be undone, but each call went straight to voicemail. He left message after message, his voice breaking as he pleaded for answers, for an explanation, for anything. But the silence on the other end was deafening, and with each unanswered call, the hope inside him dwindled until there was nothing left but despair. Ben sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by the remnants of the life he had once thought he was building with Noah. The beautiful memories they had shared now felt like shards of glass, cutting into him with every recollection. The laughter, the tender moments, the dreams they had shared, it was all tainted, poisoned by the truth of who Noah really was. The man he had loved was nothing more than a ghost, a shadow who had slipped into his life and taken everything before disappearing without a trace. Days passed, each one stretching out endlessly as Ben grappled with the betrayal. Friends and colleagues noticed the change in him, the hollow look in his eyes, but he couldn't bring himself to explain. How could he tell them that he had been so thoroughly deceived, that the love he had cherished had been nothing more than a calculated scheme? The shame of it was overwhelming, and he withdrew further, isolating himself from those who might offer him comfort. As he wandered through his empty apartment, each room a painful reminder of what he had lost, Ben felt the weight of the emptiness that Noah had left behind. His heart ached with a sadness he hadn't known was possible, a deep, gnawing loneliness that consumed him. He had opened himself up, had allowed himself to hope and to love, only to be shattered in the end. And as he sat alone, staring into the void that had become his life, he wondered if he would ever be able to trust again. In time, Ben would heal. The pain would lessen, and the memories of Noah would fade into something distant, a painful lesson that he would carry with him. But in that moment, as he sat in the silence of his empty apartment, he was left with nothing but the shards of a broken heart and the bitter knowledge that he had been nothing more than a stepping stone in Noah's path. And as he lay there, drowning in sorrow, Ben knew that he would never be the same.